House District 88.
I'm Ellen Hefner with House District 87. I'm excited to have our guest on today. Today is Transportation Day at the Capitol, so why wouldn't we have the Secretary of Transportation? And you're going to tell us a little bit about how you got started in it, but 30 years in this same area, in the same agency, really. There are some things that you've done that I'm so excited about. One is planning beyond our 2-year cycles, which is what you have done. And so I'm excited to introduce to you Secretary Tim Gatz.
Thank you very much. And I want to tell you first and foremost, representatives, what an honor it is for me to be here with you today. Really, when you look at my career across the 36 years I've been with ODOT, when I graduated from college in 1989, Oklahoma was still reeling from the oil bust. And unemployment was somewhere between 6 and 7%, not a lot of jobs. I could have left the state, but Oklahoma's my home. And so I wanted to stay here. I took an entry-level job with ODOT as a drafting tech. And when I say drafting tech, I mean at that particular moment in time, we were still using pen and T-squares.
Oh my gosh.
So it allowed me to stay in state. But at the same time, I won't hesitate to tell you it was going to be the job I was going to have till I got my next job. And it turned into a career. It turns out the work, it was something I just absolutely loved. I felt like at the end of every day, the Department of Transportation and our management of the infrastructure, we can look back and see accomplishments. And, and then to that, the thing that added to that was leadership at ODOT. And that's been consistent across my entire career, whether that's Neil McCaleb, whether that was Gary Ridley, Mike Patterson, all just phenomenal leaders that were willing to challenge me with new work. And so that kept me there. And it has been an absolute wonderful, fulfilling career. I love to get to interact with the legislature, and it's been, like I said, it has been 36 years went by in the blink of an eye.
I had down 30. I was off by 6 years.
So one of the things, that we talk about is, transportation is like probably one of the most visual departments you can oversee. In a department, we're happy with when we see it succeeding and frustrated, in other ways. But one of the big challenges I know in your tenure was with bridges, and we were ranked in the bottom, 10 of bridge safety. And so kind of talk about the work that you did on bridges.
Absolutely. And you're exactly right. Nothing touches our daily lives any more than the transportation system. We all interact with it in one way or another every day. And if you turn the clock back to the late 90s, I call those our Band-Aids and bell and wire years, because ODOT's funding had been flat since 1987. So we had a maintenance backlog that was incredible. Our bridges reflected that. We were 49th in the country. If you consider that ODOT has about 6,800 bridges on the highway system,
Wow.
A full almost 18% of those were what we call structurally deficient, which means they were in poor condition. It was a problem that had gotten to the point where we had to do something. And Gary Ridley was in our directorship at that time, and the courage that he had to take legislators under some bridges and show them what it really looked like and what we were really worried about. That is where, and the thing that's really made the difference is the commitment of the legislature. The roads fund, rebuilding Oklahoma access and driver safety. That's where this all started. Part of that was putting together an 8-year long-range plan that focused our efforts, that was a fantastic communication tool. And, it set targets for us. It's always been fiscally constrained, so we don't put projects in there that we don't feel like we can deliver. And I think that's been a big part of our success story, is having that plan, having that goal, and the focus had to be on bridge infrastructure starting out. We've gone from 49th to 4th
Wow.
for best bridges now. Less than 1% has always been our goal, to be structurally deficient. And today we're going to have something maybe 35, down from almost 1,200.
Wow.
So incredible progress, great success story, and but it takes commitment. It takes the support of the legislature, because the roads fund grew over time. So you provided more resources to us, and we sped up. So we were able to get things done. I tell people all the time, there's no instant gratification in infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
It takes planning, it takes a long time to deliver, and it takes focus and consistent funding. And
Well, it takes building relationships. We talk about that a lot on this show, and it takes a little bit of salesmanship. Clearly, one of your mentors had that by showing, "Come step with me under this bridge." That's pretty great. But also, the communication, I feel, is one of those things that agencies sometimes tend to only have waves of communication. But you guys have not done that. Give us a little bit more about those steps and how big communication is, especially with the legislature on funding.
With our agency, we believe that it is our responsibility to make sure that we're communicating the challenges that we're dealing with out there on the highway system, in our transit arena, with the Heartland Flyer, openly and aggressively. We need to tell you and make sure you understand the condition that our infrastructure is in, what the needs out there are, and then how we're trying to use the resources we've got available to address them. And especially when we're not moving the needle into the green. It is really important for us to make sure we let you know. When we project over the next decade, we're having a shortfall right now for investment levels, and our infrastructure won't show it tomorrow. And we're not in a panic yet, because these are things that materialize over time. But if we don't increase the investment levels in transportation over time, we will begin to go backwards. And it's taken us so long to get to where we are. And again, that's the focus that we have. Is we're infrastructure managers. We take the resources and the taxpayer dollars that we're entrusted with. We prioritize those through engineering analysis, and so we know where the needs are, we know where the priorities are, and we try to make the right investments with the resources we have. So,
what do you see as, futuristic? What are the biggest challenges that you're trying to prepare for, that you would want funding for, or not, but just like, what are you wanting to prepare for?
I think there are a couple things. Oklahoma, we've got the 17th largest highway system in the United States.
Oh, wow.
We've got the
I did not know that.
20th largest by land area state, and we have the 28th largest population. So we've got a lot of infrastructure that is supported by a relatively small tax base, and that's a challenge, especially when you look at our economic drivers: agriculture, energy, and not just oil and gas, but whether it's getting the wind farm stood up, we're going to have solar, and we see that developing rapidly. All of that takes solid transportation, not just in the urban areas, but in the rural areas. So we've got to find ways to invest in that 12,000 plus miles of highway that we have in all aspects. So Oklahoma City, 20th largest city in the United States. In your districts, you have some of the highest volume highways in the state of Oklahoma. That concerns us. The what we call the K interchange, otherwise known as Amarillo Junction, out here at I-40 and I-44. That's the highest volume interchange in Oklahoma, and it is a major choke point on our national interstate.
It is. It's absolutely horrible. If you're heading west after 5.
I do every day. Yeah. So
Plus, I worry about that bridge too, because it's small.
It's narrow, and it carries a lot of traffic, and much like I-44 and 235 up here, that best I can tell, it took us about 25 years to get all of that phasing and that replacement done, but it is beautiful now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
disheartening to watch the traffic back up in that every day after day after day, and now it's great to see people flow through it without a brake light.
Depends on when you go. This morning I did not know it was going to be so busy because I don't go so early, but it was all packed. It was a parking lot this morning.
Well, it's much better than what it was.
Oh, absolutely, not complaining.
And it's just like the Amarillo Junction. When it was constructed, it was pretty much fairgrounds and a pasture, and you know, and things develop and grow around those locations. And it's time for us to make a major investment out there. But you know, the cost of that interchange by the time we get done will be somewhere around $700 million to rebuild it like it needs to be rebuilt. And with a budget in our construction program of about $1 billion a year.
Wow.
So we've got to address those types of metropolitan needs, and at the same time make sure that our rural highways are safe first, and then can support the kind of economy that we have in rural America. And you know, Oklahoma, we do such a great job. We also, you know, from a transit perspective, whether that's in the urban areas or whether that's in our rural areas where, you know, some of our most vulnerable populations are trying to age in place. You know, they don't want to move to the city. So we've got to make sure that we're talking about that too. That's a part of it. And it all fits in that package, and it's all going to be challenging going forward as resources continue to get stretched.
So there's some sort of metric rubric, whatever you call it, that you use that puts in safety and needs and volume or whatever. There's something that you use. So like that bridge over there, that Amarillo, there's someplace in a top 10, or is that?
Sure, it is. You know, and again, what you look at in those urban projects, number one, condition, and the bridges are safe. They're not up to today's standards.
I remember when that May bridge crashed. So that, you know, and I know but it's one of those things that's on my mind that.
Sure. And to that matter, if we ever feel like that a bridge is not safe, I promise you we will close it immediately.
Yeah, okay.
And it doesn't make any difference whether it's I-40 or out on a rural highway. And we inspect every bridge in the state of Oklahoma at least once every 2 years. And that's done by engineers. And that's what I would tell you. Oklahoma has some of the finest transportation engineers in the world, right here in this state. The Department of Transportation is blessed to have them that choose to work for state government. They don't have to. They can go work anywhere. And usually make a whole lot more money. But they're dedicated to the citizens of the state of Oklahoma, and their job is to prioritize and find the needs out there, understand them, and they do it every day, and then come back and make recommendations to us. You know, we never have enough resources to do everything that needs to be done, but our team is really, really good at prioritizing and delivering the best product that we can for the traveling public.
How big? I mean, how many people work at the Department of Transportation?
So when I started, I'll give you another perspective here. When I went to work for ODOT, we had about 3,300 people, and today we are, if on a good day, we're about 2,300. So we have downsized our workforce, and a lot of that's through technology. Just like I said, when I started with ODOT, we were using pen and ink, you know, and drafting. When computer-aided design started up, that allowed us to reduce some of that workforce. Survey is another great example, because with the satellite survey and the technologies, where a survey crew in 1990 had 5 or 6 guys on it, you can almost do everything you need to do with one now. So we've been able to take advantage of that. We are really good at leveraging the private sector. So we contract with consulting engineering companies to help us. And we also work obviously closely with our construction contractors that are so important in Oklahoma. But that's part of how we prioritize. It's that expertise. We are always working on workforce development and making sure we've got that resource available to us. And that's something we have to stay committed to. And part of that is even, you know, we do a market study on compensation levels. Because we will never be able to pay the same as the private sector. We recognize that, but we've got to stay as close as we can. and show our employees and all employees, whether that's an equipment operator in the field or whether that's an engineer, how much we value them, because our number one resource, I will tell you without hesitation, is our people.
Absolutely.
Very good. Well, you brought up the Heartland Flyer, and rail is super important, I believe. The first time I came to Oklahoma, I think I've told this, that was on the train from Chicago.
Awesome.
We visited in 1978, I think that was, and it was a great trip. Miss those kind of train trips, because we can't have that anymore. Is that a priority to get that, to figure out how we can make those connections to Kansas City, or is that a distant something?
It is. I would love for it to be a priority. The challenge that we have is the cost of doing that. And we lost that Amtrak service in '79. And
right afterwards.
And it took us until 1999 and some heroic efforts by Senator Don Nichols
To get that.
to bring that back to Oklahoma. And we could only do it down to Fort Worth. That was the extent of it. I think there was a vision that we would eventually extend that north and tie into Newton, Kansas, which hits the Southwest Chief, which runs Chicago to LA. I think that's still something we've got to continue a conversation about.
We have to keep looking at that.
you
It's
know,
not always going to be by car.
That's exactly right. And we talk about ridership. The ridership on the Heartland Flyer is going to be 83,000 people a year. It's hard to compare that to the 150,000 cars a day that are out here on I-35. That does not minimize the importance of having that alternative available to your citizenry.
I like hearing that.
And those are the things that we've got to stay focused on. There was an act of Congress that came through that was called PREA, not the Passenger Rail. I'm sorry.
It's an acronym.
Exactly. Heartland Flyer started out as an Amtrak sponsored route. It got changed to what we call a state sponsored route, and Oklahoma and Texas cost share it now.
Yeah.
You remember Texas having budgetary challenges last year. Oklahoma's in that same boat this year. So the passenger rail revolving fund, our budgetary ask is that we put $2 million more into the passenger rail revolving fund, because we are going to need that in order to operate the Heartland Flyer again. So we're going to hit that same wall on our ability to fund the Heartland Flyer. So that's a budgetary ask. Now I'm going to get on my soapbox.
Get up there.
Yeah.
Get up.
It is irresponsible in the United States for Amtrak not to have that route. They call it the Heartland Flyer for a reason, because it is a north-south connector between some of the fastest growing, highest population areas in Texas, the 20th largest city in Oklahoma City, and the east-west route that's at Newton, Kansas. Amtrak should support that route. There is an obvious gap in their service here in the middle of the United States, and I have this conversation openly with Amtrak because I think that for the future, for a growing state like Oklahoma, the I-35 corridor from Kansas all the way to Laredo, Texas, is the fastest growing interstate corridor in the United States.
Wow.
We have to have alternate modes to match the needs that we see developing.
I could drive to Chicago with blindfold how many times I've taken 55, to 44 to 55 to go to Chicago. But even on destinations, you don't want a car in Chicago. Parking, and I mean, it's one of those things that we have to think about, the growing population and what we want to do when we get to that destination. And a car may not, maybe I'm talking against gas. I'm not. I'm just talking about what we should be ready for. So I think even if we stop it, gosh, how much money is that going to take if we wanted to start that back up again? So I think that has to be in the conversation, true.
It's critical.
It's critical. Yeah, once stopped, it's going to cost a lot more money. Well, I'd love to talk about something really great, though, about something that's a celebration this year with a big stretch, I think the largest, which would be up north, they call it Route, but down here we call it Route 66.
Yeah.
The centennial celebration is I don't think we yet have wrapped our minds around how big a year this is for Route 66. And, you know, Oklahoma, Cyrus Avery was in Tulsa whenever the route was designed and routed. Oklahoma, Route 66 is woven into the very fabric of who we are here in Oklahoma. I lived a couple of blocks off of Route 66 in El Reno and grew up crossing it every day on my way to elementary school. So and if you look at where our population centers are, you know, almost 3/4 of Oklahoma's population lives within 25 miles of Route 66.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it is important, always has been, to the state of Oklahoma. And I think when you look at the way where we are today, and I love it because it is Route 66 in its form and function. The historic element of it is huge. There's worldwide appreciation of that, but it also looks forward. You know, what's next in transportation? And those are the kinds of things that we've got to start to think about. And that's what the exclamation point on this centennial celebration should be: what's next?
I love that.
We love to look back. And my granddad always used to say, if you don't remember where you came from, you're not going to know where you're going. And I think that's hugely important right now, because again, Route 66 and then subsequently the interstate system is what enabled this country to move around. It made us much freer, and I think that's a critical part of who we are. And it's going to be great to celebrate it. And the celebrations that are going to be planned and that are being planned, travelok.org, Tourism's got their calendar stood up. There will be events throughout this year that are going to be incredible. I think that momentum gives Oklahoma an opportunity not only to put our best foot forward with the support of the legislature, because you guys made a commitment so we can put our best foot forward, and that's been huge. So I think Oklahoma can use this as a springboard to build on our tourism industry even more. So, exciting times.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
So one of the questions I had was, I mean, how much of our budget for transportation comes from federal government? Because having a strong infrastructure of highways benefits, to your point, the country at large. And so what is that? I mean, I'm sure navigating between city, municipalities, state, and federal is really overwhelming.
Yeah, and I'll give you a perspective. So if you look at ODOT's typical state budget, it's going to be somewhere around 800 million, maybe a little more. Our federal funding is going to be just about exactly like that, just about 850 million. What makes it, and again, all of those dollars don't find their way to the highways. You know, there are a multitude of different things that we have to administer and take care of, transit, rail, all those different things. When you look at the 8-year construction work plan, it's about 60% federal funds and about 40% state funds. And that match is, I'll tell you the appreciation I had when we did our initial 8-year construction work plan in 2003. It was 100% federally funded, had no state funds in it. So when I tell you that the legislature's support and the resources that the legislature has brought to bear have been a difference maker, I'm not kidding. Because again, without that, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Wow.
But that's kind of the mix. If you look at our overall budget, it's going to be somewhere in there around $1.6 billion, $1.7 billion, and that's just annualized. You know, ODOT is one of those agencies where, you know, when you go do a highway construction contract, and we probably got 500 or 600 active construction contracts across the state. Well, you don't ever finish that in a year. We have to play the long game. So when you look at all of the resources that we've got out there that are committed to those contracts, when you do not an annualized budget like state government does, but when you look at our total budget, it's going to be probably closer to $2.6 billion because of those active contracts and the funds that we've got to have committed to them. But our annualized budget is going to be right around $1.6 billion or $1.7 billion with federal funds. So.
Wow. Well, gosh, we could talk about transportation because it's one of those things that without it, the connection community and all that does not happen. So
Super.
So maybe we'll do a part 2. Maybe there'll be
Yeah.
a celebration of
We
Route
need to
66.
get a lieutenant governor on.
We need to get
yeah.
two. And of course, Representative Lawson. He's
Yes.
a big cheerleader
Yes.
for it.
Gosh, Matt Pinnell, Lieutenant
good.
Governor Pinnell is just incredible as far as his enthusiasm, not just for Route 66, but for the state of Oklahoma in general.
Yeah.
But Representative Lawson, my gosh,
Oh, big
what a
cheerleader.
fantastic leader
Absolutely.
in
Definitely.
the Route 66 arena.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, no doubt on my part that he has been the catalyst that has enabled Oklahoma to put our best foot forward. So
Good old
That-
Sepulpa. Yep.
That's awesome.
Well, we both have a
Yes.
piece of it.
Yes, you
The
do.
one that's in my district, I used to. I don't know. They don't do it anymore. It's called cruising. On that Route 66. In my district, I did that when I was 16. So
I may or may not have
I
spent
don't
a
know,
little time on Route 66 there
kids
myself.
cruising.
That's funny. Well, we are so grateful that you could join us today. And as you know, we end all of our podcasts with a question to get to know the Ellens a little bit better. So what question do you have for us?
The thing that I would ask you guys, and you've heard me talk a lot about transportation, what is your number one transportation priority when you think about transportation?
So I know mine. I mean, so my dad grew up in Austin, Texas. Born and raised there, still have lots of family that we go back, and it has outgrown its highway system. And so my uncle was here just this year, and he said, Oklahoma City, Ellen, is Austin before Austin gets big. You'll better get ahead of all those transportation issues before it hit. And so I'm not an expert, but that's the one that I think about a lot. Like, I want us to be able to grow in a way that maintains this level of feeling like a small town still. And so whether that's, better bus routes, more public transportation, I don't know what that looks like, but that's my hope for future transportation.
Absolutely. And what you're talking about there is travel time reliability. A lot of it is, because when you're sitting in congestion, when you're sitting in traffic challenges and things like that, it impacts your quality of life.
Right.
And, that's what we all want, is to deliver the best quality of life we can.
Reliable transportation, since I advocate disability. So my first house that I bought was over there by Denniston Park, which you can still see the rail that used to have trolleys that went out there. And I think that should be a huge priority, to have that alternative method. Not only do we not, the affordability or lack of affordability of insurance and cars and all of that, I think our population wants another alternative, especially if you have a disability. Those curb cuts, more bus routes, and I think because it's almost like that push, and like we don't have the population, so we're not. I think we have to add it and get people to get along with this, and I think that it will show that more people will take that. So I'm big on the reliable, but I wish the trolleys were there. I do, because I think that would be something that it's not a gimmick. It's for workforce to get into the city. It's lack of parking, and so I would take it if it was reliable. But the bus routes are great. It's just being on a bus for an hour to get to a job that you may not be able to get a bus ride home because of how the routes run. I don't know. I just think the reliable transportation has to be a part of it.
One of the things I'm most excited about that ODOT is starting to grow is our mobility management program. And I think that gives us opportunities to tailor the types of transit to the needs of our citizens. And that technology development and I'll brag on Olivia Hook just a little bit.
Okay, I was just going to bring her up with disability. She spoke at Disability Caucus before.
She's outstanding.
Yeah.
And the direction that she's going in capitalizes on developing technologies to tailor those rides to the needs of the people that need transit assistance. And I think that's vision. So that's looking to the future. And again, we don't want to run empty buses. but we've got to make sure that where we're routing and what that looks like for the future may be dramatically different than what it is today. And I think that's what we've got to really focus on right now.
If you want to develop a program for people who use transportation, you have to include those people. Sidewalks leading to no curb cuts and not have, those are the kind of things that will keep, and it's to those connections. But I think it's a possibility, the more that we talk about it and the more we especially about rail, I think that's so important. My father-in-law was a big train buff and trolley, so just riding on the train is just such a great way of transportation. I think that we need to look for that too. So there's two, accessible and then rail.
Awesome.
There you go.
Well,
thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely, I
Yes.
appreciate the opportunity. If you haven't noticed, transportation is something I'm very passionate about, and I really appreciate the chance to come sit down with you too.
Well, thank you for joining us, and maybe we'll have you on again to talk more about transportation. Have a great day.
Bye.